My name is Eleanor Vance, and I'm 68 years old. I'm telling this story. Well, I'm not sure why. Maybe because some stories are too heavy to carry alone. It's late, and the house is quiet. The same quiet it's been since my husband, Robert, passed away 3 years ago. I thought that was the quietest it could ever get. I was wrong. It all started with a text message. A single sentence that arrived on a bright Tuesday morning and split my world in two. I was standing at the Miami cruise terminal, my suitcase beside me, a sun hat perched on my head. I'd spent a month planning this trip, a family vacation to the Bahamas. I'd paid for the tickets as an early Christmas present for my son, Mark, his wife, Amelia, and my granddaughter, Lily. My heart was doing a little flutter, the kind you get before something wonderful happens. Then my phone buzzed. I smiled, thinking it was Mark telling me where to meet them, but the words on the screen weren't a greeting. They were a dismissal. "Hey, Mom. Small change of plans. You won't be joining us on the cruise. Amelia prefers to keep it family only. We'll call you when we get back." Family only. I read the words over and over, the noise of the terminal fading into a dull roar in my ears. I looked up, and through the bustling crowd, I saw them. On the ship's upper deck, Mark, Amelia, and little Lily holding a colorful drink. They were laughing. Amelia caught my eye from across the distance, raised her glass in a small, almost imperceptible gesture, and then turned away. It wasn't a toast. It was a victory lap. I stood there, frozen, my suitcase handle cold in my hand. The ship's horn blew, a long, mournful sound, and I realized it was the sound of my own heart breaking. They were leaving, and I, the woman who had given them everything, was not considered family. The drive back to my little house in the suburbs was a blur. I walked in, and the silence was different this time. It wasn't just the absence of Robert. It was the active, ringing silence of rejection. I sat down in his old leather armchair, the one with the worn arms and the permanent imprint of his shoulders. It still smelled faintly of him, Old Spice and the pipe tobacco he secretly smoked in the garage. For 45 years, Robert and I had built a life in this house. A simple life, built on his steady mechanic's salary and my part-time job at the local library. We weren't rich, but we were happy. We raised Mark in these rooms, celebrated his every milestone, from his first steps on this very rug to his college acceptance letter, which we framed and hung in the hall. After Robert died of a heart attack far too young, the house felt vast, empty. Mark was already married to Amelia by then, and they were trying for a baby. I threw myself into helping them, because helping them felt like holding on to a piece of Robert. They couldn't afford a house in the city, not with Mark's junior architect salary and Amelia's fledgling career as an interior designer. So I did what any mother would do. I used the life insurance money Robert had left me, the nest egg meant for my own old age, and I put a down payment on a beautiful starter home for them. I co-signed the mortgage, my stable credit history the key that unlocked the door to their dream. "It's just temporary, Mom," Mark had promised, hugging me in their new empty living room. "Just until we're on our feet, we'll refinance in a year and get your name off the deed." But a year became 2, then 5. Every time I gently brought it up, there was an excuse. The market wasn't right. They had a new baby, Lily. Amelia had decided to freelance, and their income was unpredictable. I never pushed. I'd just nod and say, "Of course, dear, whenever you're ready." I paid the property tax bill when it accidentally came to my house. I wrote checks for the new water heater, the leaking roof. I didn't keep a tally. You don't keep a tally with your children. Or so I thought. Looking back, the cruise wasn't a sudden storm. It was the hurricane that finally made landfall after years of gathering clouds. The slights had been small at first, almost unnoticeable. Little paper cuts to the heart. Amelia would call. "Eleanor, we're having a few friends over on Saturday. It's just a casual thing. You'd probably be bored." A casual thing I'd see plastered all over her social media the next day, complete with photos of Lily opening presents from Amelia's parents. I stopped dropping by with my famous lemon meringue pie, Robert's favorite. The last time I did, Amelia had smiled tightly and said, "Oh, thank you, Eleanor, but we're trying to cut down on sugar. I'll find someone to give it to." Mark became a ghost on the other end of the phone. When I'd call, he was always just stepping into a meeting. Amelia would often answer his phone, her voice bright and brittle. "He's swamped, Eleanor. I'll be sure to tell him you called." He rarely called back. My own sister Carol saw it. "They treat you like an ATM and a free babysitter, but never like family," she'd said after I'd watched Lily for a week while they went to Napa. "They're just busy," I'd reply, the excuse tasting like ash in my mouth. It's hard when you're young. But the denial was getting harder to maintain. I felt myself shrinking, my world getting smaller. I'd hesitate before calling, second-guessing if I was being a bother. I, who had never been a bother to anyone in my life, was starting to feel like an intrusion in my own son's world. I blamed myself. Maybe I was too overbearing. Maybe I offered my opinion too often. Maybe if I was just quieter, smaller, less present, he would remember the mother he used to love. The cruise was supposed to be different. It was my idea, my treat, a way to reclaim our connection, to make memories with my granddaughter. I'd pictured us on the deck, the warm Bahamian breeze in our hair, Lily laughing between us. A perfect family portrait. A fantasy, it turned out, that I was the only one having. The week they were gone was the longest of my life. The house felt like a tomb. I'd wander from room to room, touching Robert's things, talking to his photograph on the mantel. "What did I do wrong, Robert? Where did our boy go?" I tried to keep busy. I weeded the rose garden, reorganized the pantry, sorted through old boxes in the attic. Anything to keep the silence at bay. It was on the third day, while looking for old photo albums, that I found it. Tucked away in the back of a closet, behind a stack of Robert's old engineering textbooks, was a dusty shoebox. It wasn't one of mine. The label, in Robert's neat block handwriting, simply said, "For Eleanor, just in case." My heart started to pound. A cold dread mixed with a flicker of something else. I sat on the dusty floor and lifted the lid. Inside, it wasn't old photos or sentimental trinkets. It was a thick file of legal documents, and on top, a sealed envelope with my name on it. My hands trembled as I opened the letter. "My dearest Eleanor, if you are reading this, it means I am gone, and you are facing a storm I always prayed would never come. I love our son, but I was never blind to his nature. He is a good man at heart, but he is weak. He bends to the strongest wind, and I fear his wife, Amelia, is a gale force. I have seen the way she looks at what we have, not with appreciation, but with calculation. I have seen the way she manages Mark, isolating him from his past, from us. I knew, with a certainty that has kept me awake many nights, that she would one day see you as an obstacle. And I knew Mark might not have the strength to stand up for you. So, I took a precaution. A secret. The down payment on their house. It wasn't just a gift. It was a legal maneuver. I had my lawyer, a man you can trust, David Chen, structure the purchase through a family trust. The deed is in that trust's name, and you, my love, are the sole irrevocable trustee. Mark and Amelia are listed as residents, not owners. They cannot sell, refinance, or take out a loan against the property without your explicit written signature. Legally, Eleanor, that house is yours, not theirs. Yours to control, yours to live in, yours to sell if you ever need to. This is your armor, my love. I pray you never have to use it. But if the day comes when they try to push you out, you will have a foundation to stand on that they cannot shake. Be strong. You have always been the strong one. I sank back against the wall, the letter clutched to my chest. My body was shaking, not with sadness, but with a tidal wave of emotions I couldn't even name. Relief, anger, a profound, aching love for the man who had seen the future and had, even from beyond the grave, built me a fortress. He had known. He had seen the cracks long before I did, and he had protected me. For an hour, I just sat there on the floor of the closet, surrounded by the ghosts of our life together, holding the proof that I was not crazy, not oversensitive, not a burden. I was the owner. They were the guests. And their stay was about to come to an abrupt end. When they returned from the cruise, tanned and glowing, they found a different woman waiting for them. I didn't call. I waited for them to come to me, which they did 3 days later, bearing a duty-free bottle of perfume and a rehearsed apology. "Mom, We are so sorry, Mark began, shifting his weight from foot to foot. It was a last-minute decision. Amelia was just so stressed and she preferred it to be family only. I finished for him, my voice calm. Amelia jumped in, her smile a little too bright. We just needed to reconnect, Eleanor. You understand, but we missed you terribly. She placed the perfume on the coffee table. We brought you this. I looked at the expensive bottle, then at them. I don't want your perfume, Amelia. I want an explanation. The mood shifted. Amelia's smile tightened. We've already explained. It was a private trip. A private trip that I paid for, I said quietly. A trip you took after leaving me at the terminal without so much as a phone call. A trip where you felt comfortable using my credit card for a $600 spa treatment. Mark's face went pale. What? Amelia, you told me you used your card. Amelia shot him a venomous look. It was a mistake. A mix-up. I was going to pay her back. Were you? I asked. Were you also going to pay me back for the 5 years of property taxes? For the new roof? For the down payment on the house you live in? The room was thick with a tense silence. Mom, you're getting confused again, Mark said, his voice pleading. You offered to help with those things. I offered to help my son and his wife get on their feet, I corrected him. I did not offer to be their permanent benefactor while being treated like a nuisance. That's when Amelia's composure finally snapped. Oh, please, she scoffed. You act like you're some kind of martyr. We let you be a part of our lives. We let you see your granddaughter. What more do you want? I want respect, I said, my voice rising for the first time. I want to be treated like family, not an inconvenience. I want my son to remember who raised him. This is ridiculous, Amelia said, grabbing her purse. Mark, we're leaving. Your mother is being hysterical. Mark hesitated, torn, looking from his furious wife to his resolute mother. Mom, please, he begged. Dad would have wanted us to handle things peacefully. Yes, I agreed, standing up. He would have, which is why he made sure I could. I walked over to the antique secretary desk where I'd placed the file from the attic. I pulled out the trust documents and the deed. You see, Mark, your father was a very wise man. He knew you, and he knew her. I placed the documents on the table in front of them. You've been living in my house for 5 years, not your house, mine, and I've decided that I'd like it back. The aftermath was ugly. Amelia screamed. She called me a vindictive old woman. She accused me of trying to ruin their lives. Mark just stared at the papers, his face ashen, the reality of the situation sinking in. They called their lawyer. I called mine. The battle lines were drawn. Their lawyer tried to argue that Robert's trust was invalid, that my years of allowing them to live there constituted a verbal contract. But the documents were ironclad. David Chen, Robert's lawyer, had done his job perfectly. The climax came not in a dramatic courtroom, but in a sterile mediation office. Mark and Amelia sat on one side of a long table, their faces grim. I sat on the other with Carol beside me for support. Their lawyer blustered and threatened. He spoke of filial duty, of a mother's love. My lawyer simply laid out the facts, the deed, the trust, the years of my documented financial contributions versus their lack thereof. He also presented a sworn affidavit from the cruise line confirming my ticket had been canceled by Mark the day before departure. And the cherry on top, the credit card statement with the spa charge. Amelia tried to argue. She's doing this out of spite. She was always jealous of my relationship with Mark. I finally spoke, my voice quiet but carrying across the room. I was never jealous, Amelia. I was heartbroken. You didn't just take my money. You took my son. You took my granddaughter. You tried to take my dignity. The house is just a house. It's the only thing I have left that I can take back. Then, something unexpected happened. Mark, who had been silent the entire time, finally looked at me. There were tears in his eyes. She's right, he whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear him. She's right, Amelia. We were wrong. The fight went out of them after that. The mediation ended with a clear agreement. They would vacate the house within 30 days. I agreed to give them back the exact amount of money they had personally paid toward the mortgage principal over 5 years, a surprisingly small sum. The rest of the equity, the value that had grown from my initial investment and the booming market, was mine. Winning felt hollow. I had my house back, but I had lost my son. The 30 days passed in a tense, silent truce. They moved their things out, leaving the house strangely empty, stripped of the life it had held. I didn't move back in. The memories were too tainted. I put it on the market, and it sold within a week for a price that made my head spin. Suddenly, I was not just a retired librarian with a modest pension. I was a wealthy woman. The victory was lonely. Carol was a rock, but I missed my family. I missed the idea of my family, the one I thought I had. Then, about a month after the sale closed, I got a letter. A handwritten letter on simple, plain paper. It was from Mark. "Mom," it began. "I don't know if you'll even read this. I don't blame you if you don't. There are no excuses for what I did, for what I allowed to happen. Amelia and I have separated. The house, the money, it was all she ever really cared about. When that was gone, there was nothing left between us. I've been doing a lot of thinking about Dad, about you, about the kind of man I became. I let you down. I know that. I am living in a small apartment now, and Lily is with me on weekends. She asks about you all the time. She misses her grandma. I don't expect you to forgive me. Not now, maybe not ever. But I wanted you to know that I am sorry, truly sorry. And I hope that one day I can be a son you're not ashamed of again." I read the letter a dozen times, the paper growing soft with my tears. It wasn't a solution, but it was a start. A crack of light in the darkness. I didn't call him right away. I let the silence sit for another week. I needed him to understand what silence felt like. Then I texted him a photo, a picture of me, standing in front of a small, charming house in a coastal town a few hours away, with a "sold" sign in the yard. My new beginning. He replied almost instantly. "It's beautiful, Mom," I texted back. "There's a spare room. It's perfect for a little girl who likes to build sandcastles." His response was just one word. "When?" Our relationship isn't what it was. The innocent trust is gone, replaced by something more cautious, more deliberate. But it's real. We talk. We are rebuilding, slowly, brick by painful brick. Lily visits on weekends, and her laughter fills my new home with a joy I thought I'd lost forever. I learned that a mother's love is not unconditional surrender. It is not a blank check or an open door to disrespect. True love has boundaries. It demands to be valued. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to say no more, not for revenge, but for the hope of a healthier, more honest future. The house was never just about the money. It was about my place in my own family. And by letting it go, I finally found my way back home, to myself. What would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to choose between your dignity and a family relationship? Share your story and the city you're watching from in the comments below.